Welcome to Fledgling Eagle, a channel where we explore historical events, cultural tensions, and the stories that shape the world we live in today. For many in Papua, December marks a pivotal moment in history. While presidents may change, the issues in Papua remain unresolved. So how does President Prabowo Subianto address this ongoing challenge? Prabowo's stance on Papua's struggles. Prabowo Subianto, a former Minister of Defense and a significant political figure in Indonesia, has consistently held a firm and unwavering position regarding the sovereignty of Indonesia, especially in relation to its easternmost province, Papua. Over the years, Prabowo has often stated that one of the greatest threats to Indonesia's stability comes from growing separatist movements that have emerged in various parts of the country. Papua, in particular, has been at the heart of these concerns due to the long-running conflicts surrounding the Papua Merdeka, Free Papua movement. Despite being relatively small, the push for Papuan independence has endured for decades, remaining a major issue for the Indonesian government. In his rhetoric, Prabowo has drawn attention to the risk of foreign influence in the region, which he believes worsens the conflict. At times, foreign governments, international NGOs, and global organizations have shown support for the separatists, adding complexity to the matter. Such external involvement has raised alarms in Indonesia, with some fearing that foreign powers are using the Papua issue to undermine the nation's stability. Hey there, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment with your city so we can feel more connected with you. A small gesture like this really motivates us to create more content. Thank you so much for your support. During his political campaigns, Prabowo has made it clear that he is committed to prioritizing Papua's sovereignty and the nation's unity. He firmly asserts that Indonesia will not tolerate any form of territorial fragmentation. Particularly vocal against Papuan independence, Prabowo argues that such a separation would not only harm Indonesia, but would also serve the interests of foreign powers trying to destabilize the country. He believes that if the Papua Merdeka movement succeeded, it would embolden other separatist movements across Indonesia, weakening the nation's unity and territorial integrity. Prabowo's stance is driven by a broader nationalist sentiment and a strong belief in territorial unity. He has expressed concerns that the disintegration of Papua could set a dangerous precedent, encouraging other provinces to pursue independence, further undermining the unity of the nation. Thus, Prabowo has positioned himself as a staunch protector of Indonesia's territorial integrity, insisting that the country's sovereignty must be defended at all costs. During Prabowo's tenure as defense minister, the Indonesian government has reiterated its commitment to maintaining control over Papua. This commitment has been reflected in a combination of military actions and strategic political maneuvers. Military forces have been deployed to the region, often amid accusations of human rights violations. However, Prabowo argues that such measures are necessary to safeguard Indonesia's unity and prevent the region from pursuing secession. Additionally, diplomatic efforts have been made to counter international support for Papua's separatists, including aligning the region's interests with national priorities to ensure foreign influence does not affect domestic policy. Prabowo's approach to Papua remains contentious both within Indonesia and internationally. Critics argue that the Indonesian government's heavy-handed tactics have resulted in significant human rights violations and suppressed calls for self-determination in the region. However, Prabowo maintains that his firm stance is crucial for Indonesia's long-term stability and cohesion. Hey, if you're new to our channel, Fledgling Eagle warmly welcomes you. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can stay updated with our upcoming content. The human cost of conflict. So what's happening in Papua? This region, long marked by political and social unrest, is currently facing a prolonged armed conflict. The ongoing battle pits the Indonesian state forces against the West Papua National Liberation Army, known by its Indonesian acronym, the KKB. The KKB is a separatist group advocating for Papuan independence, citing historical, cultural, and economic grievances. Over the years, their tactics have become more violent, targeting not just military personnel but also civilians and essential infrastructure. The KKB's methods include armed assaults, bombings, abductions, and deliberate destruction of infrastructure such as roads, bridges, and power lines. These actions aim to destabilize the region, but they overwhelmingly affect the local population, throwing ordinary citizens into a constant state of fear and insecurity. The toll on civilians has been catastrophic. Families live in perpetual anxiety, caught between separatist forces and military operations. Everyday activities, such as commuting, sending children to school, or buying essentials, are often interrupted. The constant threat of violence or encounters with security checkpoints has turned daily life into a dangerous gamble. Tragically, many innocent lives, including those of women and children, have been lost. For others, the conflict has led to displacement, with thousands fleeing their homes to seek refuge in makeshift camps, often without adequate shelter, food, or medical care. The economic and social consequences are just as severe. Papua's development efforts have been deeply hindered by the ongoing violence. The Indonesian government had aimed to improve infrastructure, education, healthcare, and economic opportunities in the region. However, these plans have largely stalled as resources are redirected toward security operations and emergency relief, deepening the socioeconomic divide and leaving rural communities without basic services. The lack of infrastructure has worsened an already dire situation. Roads remain unpaved, making travel and the delivery of goods and services difficult. Healthcare facilities are few and often under-equipped, leaving vulnerable populations without access to essential medical care. Schools are frequently closed due to safety concerns, depriving children of an education and dimming their future prospects. The broader consequences of this conflict extend beyond Papua, affecting Indonesia's international standing and raising serious human rights concerns. Critics argue that resolving the conflict requires more than military intervention. It demands a genuine dialogue, addressing the underlying grievances of the Papuan people and ensuring they are included in decisions about their region's future. Meanwhile, the human cost of the conflict continues to rise, with no clear end in sight. The people of Papua remain trapped in a cycle of violence, their lives dominated by uncertainty and fear. The dream of peace and prosperity seems to slip further away with each passing day. Historical context and external influence. To understand why the conflict in Papua continues, it's important to look at the historical roots of the region's dissatisfaction with Indonesia's central government. The unrest dates back to the 1960s, when Papua was integrated into Indonesia after its annexation, following the end of Dutch colonial rule. Since then, many Papuans have felt marginalized by Jakarta, particularly due to limited autonomy, economic disparities, human rights violations, and a lack of access to basic services like education and healthcare. The grievances of the Papuan people were made worse by policies that were perceived as insensitive to their needs and cultural identity. Over time, these issues have fueled the rise of separatist movements, with the Free Papua Movement, OPM, being the most prominent. Neighboring countries, such as Papua New Guinea, have sometimes voiced support for Papuan independence, which has further complicated Indonesia's approach to resolving the issue. Prabowo has been an outspoken critic of external interference in the Papua issue, viewing it as part of a wider international agenda aimed at destabilizing Indonesia. He has argued that foreign nations, particularly in the West, often take a selective stance on human rights, condemning Indonesia's actions in Papua while overlooking similar violations elsewhere. In this regard, Prabowo's policy emphasizes self-reliance, stressing that Indonesia's sovereignty should not be undermined by foreign intervention. International pressure on Indonesia. Indonesia's handling of the ongoing situation in Papua has sparked significant international criticism and has become a focal point for human rights discussions on the global stage. Various countries, including Mexico, Germany, Austria, and Australia, have raised concerns over the alleged human rights violations occurring in the region. Central to these criticisms are the reports of the mistreatment of indigenous communities and the Indonesian military's aggressive tactics. These nations have advocated for a stronger, more coordinated international response, including discussions at forums like the United Nations General Assembly to address the crisis. In addition to the involvement of Western nations, Indonesia's neighbor, Papua New Guinea, has also voiced its disapproval of Jakarta's actions. Due to shared cultural, ethnic, and historical ties with the Papuan people, Papua New Guinea has been an outspoken critic of Indonesia's military operations in the region. The country has supported calls for greater autonomy for Papua and has condemned Indonesia's military approach, further emphasizing the regional and emotional resonance the issue holds within the Pacific Island nations. On the other hand, Indonesia has strongly rejected what it perceives as foreign interference in its domestic affairs. Key figures in the Indonesian government, including diplomat Sylvan Austin Pasaribu, have dismissed the criticisms from these foreign nations, arguing that the situation in Papua is an internal matter that should not be subject to international intervention. Indonesia has called on the international community to respect its sovereignty and has particularly criticized countries like Vanuatu for involving themselves in what Jakarta sees as internal Indonesian issues. Indonesia's Defense Minister Prabowo Subianto has also voiced strong objections to the international condemnation of Indonesia's actions, especially when these critiques come from countries with their own controversial foreign policies. Prabowo has argued that international human rights advocacy is often selective and inconsistent. He pointed out that while there is widespread attention on Papua, similar humanitarian crises in other regions, such as Gaza, often receive little attention or action. For Prabowo, this disparity in global responses undermines the legitimacy of international calls for intervention in Papua and raises questions about the fairness and objectivity of global human rights standards. Indonesia's stance is clear. It views the situation in Papua as a sovereign issue, asserting that it should be dealt with internally without foreign interference. However, the ongoing debate highlights the tensions between national sovereignty and the global demand for accountability, human rights, and justice. The conflicting views underscore the complexity of the situation and the challenges in finding a resolution that respects both local autonomy and international human rights standards. As the international pressure continues to mount, it remains to be seen how Indonesia will navigate these challenges while balancing its domestic policies and international relationships. stronger security and economic development. In response to the ongoing conflict, the Indonesian government has ramped up security measures in Papua, recognizing the region's strategic significance. With a 770-kilometer land border shared with Papua New Guinea, the region faces challenges such as smuggling, the movement of separatist fighters, and the trafficking of weapons and funds to the KKB. In response, Indonesia has increased its military presence along the border, setting up additional posts in areas like Merauke, Jayapura, and Boven-Diguel. However, improving security alone will not be enough to resolve the situation. The government has also enhanced its intelligence operations to track the financial flows supporting the separatist cause. It is believed that the KKB's operations are financed through various illegal means, including corrupt officials, stolen village funds, and illegal gold mining. In 2021, police uncovered documents and receipts pointing to millions of dollars supporting the KKB, though no concrete evidence has yet emerged linking these funds to foreign entities. Alongside the security efforts, Prabowo's administration has placed a strong emphasis on economic development as a vital component of the strategy to stabilize Papua. Investments in infrastructure and social services are seen as essential to addressing the socio-economic issues that fuel unrest in the region. However, the ongoing conflict continues to hinder progress in crucial areas such as healthcare, education, and poverty reduction. The future of Papua, a delicate balance. Looking ahead, the Indonesian government under Prabowo's leadership recognizes that the key to long-term stability in Papua lies in more than just military action. Achieving peace will require a multifaceted approach that not only secures the region, but also addresses the real needs of the Papuan people. The government acknowledges that improving the daily lives of Papuans, including access to education, healthcare, and employment opportunities, is vital. For many in Papua, the lack of these essential services has been a major source of frustration, fueling resentment and supporting separatist movements. By focusing on addressing these needs, there is hope for reducing feelings of alienation and fostering a more positive environment in the region. One of the government's proposals to address these issues is the revival of the transmigration program. This initiative, which involves relocating people from other parts of Indonesia to Papua, aims to bring development to the region. Though this program was introduced decades ago, it has sparked controversy. Critics argue that transmigration has worsened tensions, displacing indigenous Papuans, causing land disputes and eroding cultural identities. Many Papuans feel that their ancestral lands are being taken from them without consent, which has led to deep resentment. However, the government believes that transmigration could still offer solutions. Proponents argue that it could help stimulate economic growth by bringing agricultural knowledge, technological advancements, and infrastructure improvements to the region. Additionally, increasing the population could reduce the region's reliance on external aid and help drive economic self-sufficiency. Despite the potential benefits, concerns remain. Reintroducing transmigration could exacerbate existing tensions, especially over land rights. Papua's indigenous communities have a strong cultural connection to their land, and any encroachment by outsiders may be seen as a threat to their way of life. The influx of people from other parts of Indonesia could make the delicate balance between development and cultural preservation even harder to manage. Ultimately, the key to Papua's future lies in balancing economic development, social justice, and respect for the region's indigenous heritage. The government must ensure that the voices and needs of the Papuan people are prioritized in shaping their future, taking care to respect both their immediate concerns and long-term aspirations. Looking to the future, a peaceful Papua. Resolving the conflict in Papua will require a comprehensive approach that addresses both security concerns and the socio-economic challenges facing the region. The Indonesian government must create policies that consider the unique cultural and social needs of the Papuan people, ensuring they have a meaningful role in decisions affecting their future and that their rights are protected. Collaboration with international organizations, NGOs, and local communities is also crucial. Working together, these groups can address underlying injustices, promote sustainable development, and protect the environment. International cooperation could help reduce external interference, creating a more supportive environment for Indonesia to resolve the conflict internally. While security will remain a priority, the ultimate goal must be achieving peace and stability in Papua. This will involve dismantling the networks supporting separatist groups and making significant investments in education, healthcare, and infrastructure. With sustained effort and collaboration, a peaceful and prosperous Papua is achievable. Through these collective efforts, Papua's future could be one of peace, stability, and opportunity, a future that offers hope for a more inclusive and harmonious Indonesia. In this video, we've explored the key aspects of the Papua conflict and how the Indonesian government, under President Prabowo Subianto, is addressing the challenges faced by the region. While the road to peace is challenging, real change will come from balancing security, economic development, and social issues. Let's hope that Papua will find a sustainable path to peace and growth in the future. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on our upcoming videos.